Brendan Murphy.
Welcome, 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 sir. Fantastic. Uh, Dennis Dawson, thank you for the opportunity to help you out leading this successful club series, Moments of Truth. I'm excited about this one because this is the most powerful of all the successful club series modules, and it's the most important for our success as an organization. Not just a club, not just an area, division, or district, but Toastmasters International. Everybody needs to know the moments of truth. And tonight's Successful Club Series module, we're going to show you what the moments of truth is all about. But there's more to the module than we'll show tonight because it also includes the exercises about discovering the moments of truth of each and every club. So let's get going here. And we're going to start with the moments of truth. And it's a tool that enables the sustained club quality through guided evaluation and targeted recommendations.
Wait, did you just make that up?
I read that someplace. I forget where it was exactly. But
Okay.
that's what a moment of truth module is all about. And then each moment of truth represents an opportunity. Opportunity, I want to emphasize that word, opportunity. What word was I emphasizing there, Dennis?
Opportunity. That's
Very
got a lot of.
You're one heck of an audience, sir.
Uh-huh.
You fantastic. Make up for all the people who aren't with us tonight, but will be listening for years to come. It's an opportunity for the club to create a positive impression. So we're looking for those positive impressions for everybody who engages with Toastmasters in any way. But this program, of course, is dedicated to the club and how the club is led and how it encounters each and every moment of truth. And those moments of truth ask these questions. What makes a high quality club? Well, a high quality club encourages and celebrates member achievement. All right, very important. It provides a supportive and fun environment. Now, Dennis Dawson, who founded Toastmasters?
Ralph Smedley.
And what did he say about the best way to learn?
The best way to learn is to have fun.
Yes, we learn best in times of enjoyment. So
No. He said, learn good, fun stuff.
that too as well, but he emphasized the fun when he started Toastmasters for a bunch of boys at the YMCA, and they wanted the name Toastmasters because it had more fun than the Debate Society or Public Speaking International. They started with Toastmasters because it sounded fun, and that's where Ralph Smedley developed this idea that you have a supportive and fun environment, and that's the best place to learn. So a high-quality club has that, but also offers a professionally organized meeting with variety, and we're going to talk a little bit more about variety as well, with the idea of, hey, is this run like it's a professional organization? And indeed, we believe in that. High Quality Club also has club officers who are trained in all aspects of club quality and make sure that they're ready to go. They support the club in becoming high quality. And then members have access to a formal mentoring program. And you'll see that a lot of clubs have mentoring programs, but they don't formalize it. They have it in name only. So a high quality club has that formal mentoring program that's ingrained in the club culture. The members are provided evaluations that help them grow. And if they're not growing from those evaluations, if they're all just happy talk, or maybe they're too critical, that's not going to help those members who join the club. And the members are motivated to achieve their goals by the club membership, as well as their own self-desire for personal growth. This is a high quality club, and you will find that these kind of qualities are applicable to any organization within Toastmasters or outside of Toastmasters. So when we look for what's high quality within Toastmasters, as we're going to learn tonight, these things also apply outside as well. Now, this session is called The Moments of Truth because it is based on this idea of what a moment of truth. Dennis Dawson, would you do me a favor and read this with your great radio voice?
When anyone comes in contact with any aspect of Toastmasters, the person forms an impression based on her experience at that particular time. These decisive times, when initial impressions are formed, are known as moments of truth.
There's a hand for him, ladies and gentlemen. Did a great job there. Yes, you did, sir. And that is the idea that, hey, what we're trying to emphasize in this learning session is that there are moments of truth when people come in, encounter Toastmasters, and make a snap judgment right away. And you want to make those impressions positive. So when they are asked, what is their truth of Toastmasters? They say, it is great. All right. So that's what a moments of truth is. And what we're trying to do is make all those moments for anybody who comes into club or experiences Toastmasters positive. And we're going to go through the areas that are involved with making the moments of truth identifiable. First impressions, of course. What happens when people come into the club? Membership orientation, fellowship, variety, and communication, program planning and meeting organization, membership strength, achievement, and recognition. So we're going to talk about first impressions first. Our guests greeted warmly and introduced to officers and members. Now, I have a trick question for Dennis Dawson. Which officer is the most important officer in all of Toastmasters and in every single club and leads this bullet point of the first impressions?
This is not a trick question at all, because the most important officer in any Toastmasters club is the sergeant at arms.
And does the sergeant at arms have to do all this by him or herself?
Absolutely not. The sergeant at arms should have a hospitality committee, so that's a bunch of people who are going to officially do this. But the actual responsibility of greeting guests warmly, and not just guests, but every member who walks through the door, that's the responsibility of every member of the club all the time.
Yes.
The sergeant at arms is the one who makes sure that it happens, but is not necessarily the person that does it.
And that's absolutely the case. Now, you may have heard this before, Dennis, but please indulge me that Bert Decker, who wrote the book, You've Got to Be Believed to Be Heard, he states that people buy an emotion and justify with fact.
Wait, back up.
Do you want me to repeat that? I'm happy to repeat that, Mr. Dawson.
Okay.
People buy on emotion and justify with fact. That humans pretend to be logical, rational beings, but we're emotional beings first and foremost.
No, we're not.
We can disagree about that later. But this first impression here is the framework for how somebody reacts to a club. So they walk into that office and maybe they're nervous or they're just kind of curious and they're not sure, and somebody smiles at them, shakes their hand, helps them identify where to sit, and introduces the people who are next to them and the club president and everybody else as time allows. That provides for that positive frame of reference for the rest of the experience. I encourage all Sergeant Arms to have a committee to back them up. So if they're introducing themselves to one guest, the other members of his or her committee can introduce the other guest to the members and the people around them. So this is very important. Do not fail on this first and foremost of bullet points. Otherwise, the rest of the bullet points don't matter, because this positive frame of reference is key to the evaluation for the rest of the session. All right, now, there's got to be a guest book and name tags provided. Now, Dennis, how do you use the guest book?
The guest book, most importantly, has got an email address. So you immediately have a way to contact and follow up with the people who come to the meeting and make them once again feel like they were welcome and that we want them to come back. Name tags are important, of course, because that means that people can address the guest by name throughout the meeting and to help to get them engaged, call them up for a table topic, or simply asking what they thought of the meeting.
That's very important. And another thing as well, this idea of signing a guest book, it seems like a polite nothing, similar to Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. But those polite nothings have a degree of commitment involved in them. And somebody signing a guest book, there is some degree of commitment, of psychological commitment right then and there. So you're saying, hey, we want you to be part of this organization. We're inviting you, please sign in as well. Now, a professionally arranged meeting room is extremely important because of those first impressions. You've greeted them warmly and they come into chaos. They're not going to be impressed, and all of a sudden they're going to start being nervous, not figure out how to get seated, what to do, where's the front, am I at the side, the back. That professionally arranged meeting room is extremely important. Now, who's in charge of arranging the meeting room?
The sergeant at arms.
Who happens to be the most
important officer in Toastmasters.
Absolutely. And the sergeant at arms is in charge, but doesn't have to do it by him or herself. As a reminder, if you want to put a really nice room together, please have that as part of your hospitality committee. Have 2 or 3 people helping you out and make sure that room is arranged professionally.
I have another thought on the professionally arranged meeting room. I have a club that meets on Saturday mornings in a church facility. It has round tables, and usually we put 3 chairs per table facing the stage. And it's worked out very well because the club was small and not very well attended. Since I've joined, the club has enjoyed better attendance and we've got more members. They keep trying to set up the room the same way, and now it's so crowded that people can't walk up to the front of the room comfortably any longer. So it's not just setting it up the way it's always been set up, but paying attention to when it's time to change that professional arrangement to accommodate the success of the club.
Absolutely. And one of the manuals that I most recommend for situations such as yours or anybody who has a good meeting or wants to have a good meeting or a conference or a convention inside or outside of Toastmasters is a book called Putting on a Good Show. And Putting on a Good Show talks about how to actually arrange your room to fit the room and to fit the crowd size. So that's very important, and I think you bring up a good example of how, hey, the needs of the room arrangement have changed due to the size of the crowd. That's great news. It's a good problem to have when you have more people than can fit easily, but now you have another challenge. You want to make it professionally arranged so people can relax, enjoy the meeting, and also get to the speaking area when necessary. And speaking of meetings, you have to have a room. You have to have a room that's also convenient. So, Dennis, show me or tell me some of the horror stories of bad meeting locations you've encountered in Toastmasters International.
Well, let's see. I know of one club that met for years in an L-shaped conference room where they had the speaking stage in the, how do you say, the inside of the L.
Yeah.
If it were an elbow, they would be in the smelly, wet part of the elbow there. And it was completely awkward. The speaker always bumped into the Toastmaster as they switched places. There was a really nasty feng shui because you had this corner in your back as you tried to look at a really a 90-degree angle to the left and 90-degree angle to the right for 180 degrees, trying to swivel to see everybody in the room. That was a terrible meeting location. The club never achieved more than 12 members and eventually collapsed under its own sadness in its terrible meeting location.
And in addition to that, not only the physical setup of the room, but where it's located. And District 57 is in the Bay Area. We're blessed with a lot of great economic activity here, but that also brings along traffic and congestion. So you maybe used to have a great meeting place, but now people can't get there on a Tuesday night or another time that you meet. So you have to be aware of that, and you may have to adjust your meeting location accordingly. Not only is the room appropriate for what you're attempting to do, but is the location good so that your members and potential guests can get there. There's one other item in this, and this is corporate clubs who open up their doors to outside members, outside of their fellow employees. And sometimes you have this great meeting room and everybody knows where it is, room 3 West 465G, right? And everybody knows where it is and it's convenient for them, but anybody coming from outside has to sign in at security, has to walk, past thousands of cubes to get to that location. You have to make that part of your consideration as well. If it is within a business office, make sure that it's close to the front door or close to the security desk as well. All right, what else do I have for you, Dennis? I have to ask that our guest invited to address the club. What the heck? What does this mean?
Usually we'll have the guests stand up at the beginning of the meeting, say how they heard about our club and why they came to Toastmasters today, which gives them a chance to give a couple of sentences. Sometimes they go on for 5 minutes, and that's okay too. Then at the end of the meeting, we ask them to tell us what they thought of the meeting. And if we have the opportunity, we let them do a table topic as well, if they're up for that. So generally, there are 3 opportunities to let guests speak. People come to Toastmasters because they want to speak, and we shouldn't be afraid to give them that opportunity. At the same time, we shouldn't pressure them to speak if it's beyond their comfort level at that moment.
Absolutely. Nicely stated. And after that, what do we do with guests? At that very first meeting, we invite them to join.
3 questions, Brendan.
That's right. And who taught you those 3 questions?
I think it was you.
As Keith Patterson, actually.
Oh, okay. You're right.
Very successful
Keith.
district officer. And he does the 3 questions, and they are as follows. Mr. Dawson.
What did you think of our meeting today? Do you have any questions about Toastmasters? Would you like to join our club?
Every guest gets those questions at the end of their first meeting. And if they dash out the door, they gave you your email address, you email those questions to them or call them afterwards. But ideally, right at the very end of the meeting closes out, the Lieutenant Governor of Marketing or any officers or any members right there invite the guests to join, and they do it in that format of those 3 questions. What do you think? Do you have any questions? Would you like to join? Those are the 3 questions you need to memorize. They're very successful. They're engaging without being pushy, and it's very simple. And what kind of responses do you usually get to guests when you ask them if they would like to join? Dennis, what do you hear from guests at that time?
Well, I happen to belong to a couple of really successful clubs, and I would say 50% of the time, our guests will say, yes, I'd like to join the club.
Yep.
About 50%.
Yep.
Beyond that, they'll say, I'm not sure. And when they say that, very often I'll say, you know what? There are 50 Toastmasters clubs in a 5-mile radius of this one. You can visit all of them and find one that has a better fit for your vibe. I'm not uncomfortable saying go visit other clubs, because the fact is I joined the clubs that I joined because they're fantastic. Mm-hmm. So I'm confident that people will see other clubs, realize what they liked about our club, and come back. And if they happen to like another club better, that's fine. They're Toastmasters anyway.
Yeah.
Off they go.
That's a good point. So
I'm gonna, jump back to something before we get off this slide. So if you have more thoughts on that, go ahead.
No, no, no. I was going to go to the next slide, but since you're running this whole operation.
Yes, it is my operation, and we will do it my way, except I'm letting you do it. Anyway, we talked about greeting guests warmly, and I wanted to slip this in, but you just kept talking. What can I do? One of my clubs has got a role. The club happens to have 36 members. So we try to have a role for everybody, and it's difficult, to accommodate all those people, particularly since generally at least 20 members show up to every meeting. So one of the official roles is the official greeter. And that is the person who stands at the door, checks off the members as they come in, hands out name tags for the members, guests, helps them sign in, gives them their name tag, and gives them that great warm fuzzy greeting. And it's a great way to get everybody in the club used to this. So first they get the greeting from the official greeter, then they get unofficial greetings from everybody else. Another club, we just happen to have a sergeant at arms who is the sweetest woman you would ever want to meet. And I would say that practically every guest wants to join just based on meeting Barbara. So any Toastmaster can be that person. And all she really does is give them a warm smile and ask about them, ask about their day, ask them why they're there, and chat with them in a warm and sincere way that immediately makes them feel like part of the family. That's how you get people to join the club.
Absolutely. No, it's a good point. And after they join the club, what do you do with them? Well, that's the next slide. We talk about membership orientation. We're requesting a formal induction, including presentation of pins and manuals. Now, the formal induction is done by Dennis?
Formal induction into the club is done by the president most often. Or do you mean what's the process?
Well, we can talk about the process, and actually that's a good thing to bring up now. There is a process here, and remember, I want to emphasize the word formal here as being a benefit to your club. In Toastmasters, we're not hyper formal, but we do have formal occasions, and those formal occasions mean things, and that's why we up the level of formality a little bit. So Dennis, talk a little bit about the process of induction with a potential new member.
Well, now, formality aside, there's actually a legal requirement as you bring a new member into the club. If for some reason, off into the future, there is something onerous about a particular person, they perhaps stare at all the women in the club, or they insist on using objectionable language in their speeches, and they keep this up week after week. It could be that you would want to take a vote and exclude that person from the club. If you want to vote someone out of the club, you must have voted them into the club. That's an absolute rule, and it has to do with the fact that we are a not-for-profit organization, or I should say a non-profit organization. And so there are strict laws about that. If you haven't voted somebody in and you try to vote them out, they can sue. And it's easier to dissolve your club at that point than it is to remove that person. So for purely legal reasons, you're going to want to vote people in. That said, there's nothing that makes a guest or a new member feel more welcomed than to have to step outside the room. There's 20 seconds while everybody raises their hand and says, yes, that person can join the club. They come back in and you get a standing ovation because you're the newest member.
Yes.
That's a warm, formal way of bringing them in that happens to have a practical aspect to it. I really like the idea of giving people a Toastmasters pin as they join the club. It's something that they can, ideally, yes, they would wear it proudly, but most importantly, it's this physical thing that reminds them they are now a member of the Toastmasters Club. Two of my clubs have the very good habit, when you induct that member, you bring them to the front of the room and you go through the Toastmasters promise with them, all 10 items.
Yes.
Do you want to say more about that, Brendan?
Absolutely, because that Toastmasters promise in the induction script is summarized very efficiently and powerfully, and it asks the member if he or she can commit to that, and then it asks the group if they can ensure that new member has an experience worthy of the Toastmasters promise. So there's two promises going on there: the new member and the club to the new member. And it's a mutually beneficial agreement, of course, but it's very powerful right there. And you give them the pin, and that's a formal item. You encourage them to wear it inside and outside of Toastmasters. And in my club, we still use manuals, and we'll be using manuals to when, Dennis?
Till June 30th, 2020, then they go bye-bye.
And then they go bye-bye. But for right now, it's good to hand somebody a manual in addition to a pin, and that's an invitation to learn in a special way.
And if you want to give them something physical, you can hand them the icebreaker exercise from Pathways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was just about to say that, but once again, you spoke right over me. So in that case, because of that, I'm going to the next bullet point: the assignment of a mentor. How do you assign mentors in your club, Dennis?
We generally let the new member attend a few meetings. So if they've been a guest a couple of times, that's great. If not, they'll come to a couple of meetings. They'll see some of the more seasoned members, and we'll ask them, if you were to choose a mentor from this group, who might appeal to you? And we ask them for 3 names. We ask those 3 people if they would be interested in being a mentor for this new member. And so far, we've always found a good match every single time. But it's nice to give them a choice and to give the choice to the people that they've asked, so that people can make a commitment and be comfortable with it.
And what would you do with somebody who's like a Dennis Dawson Jr. coming in, and that Dennis Dawson Jr. says, "I don't need no stinking mentor. I'm a great public speaker. I love it. I'm just here to practice." What would you say to that DDJ?
One thing that people need to keep in mind is that the mentor doesn't have to necessarily be somebody older and more experienced about everything. You can ask the member what in particular they're here to work on, because everybody has something that they really want to develop as part of their skills. And so when they talk about a particular area, you can say, "Oh, I understand. I have trouble writing speeches too, but Brendan is really good at that. Maybe you and Brendan can team up, and he can give you some tips about this." So you can take the mentor title off of it, call it a buddy or something along that line, and match people up who have complementary skills.
Fantastic. Well, and another reason to assign a mentor to a new Toastmaster is some of the things that are unique to Toastmasters: how we act as an counter, a grammarian, a timer, these types of things that we do in a special way within the Toastmasters world, and how you might lead table topics if you have that event. And of course, how you prepare for a speech, because great speeches aren't written, they are
Edited.
Yeah, edited and rewritten. So these ideas of the mentor sharing some of the Toastmasters ways, which are wise and beneficial in the long run, but sometimes just unique to how we need to run our meetings. So mentor is very important. If somebody comes in and they don't think they need a mentor, I would still encourage you to try and get them a mentor and have them grab a mentor and say, it's only for a month or 2 just to make sure you can blend into the club, because this also acculturates the new member into the club as well. Can't force it, but if you get the opportunity, please make it so. Then the education programs and recognition systems need to be discussed. And Dennis, what is the Toastmasters educational program?
Well, now it's Pathways. But the key to the Toastmasters program is that while we have table topics and they're a lot of fun, we have contests, etc., the heart of Toastmasters is prepared speeches, typically 5 to 7 minutes, which are followed by a live evaluation of 2 to 3 minutes. this is the crux of our education program. And any club that says, oh, we want to be Toastmasters, but we don't really want to follow the program. We just want to come in and give speeches, and then we can give an evaluation. We like to do all table topics if we can. It's a great social group. Yes, you're having fun, and that's a good part of Toastmasters, but you're not actually using the education program, and that is the heart of what we do.
And discussing that with the members so they know what they're getting into, part of what they just committed to in the induction ceremony, I hope will guide them along and be very helpful as well.
And it's always good as you're explaining that to the new member, you're actually reinforcing it for the existing members, anybody within earshot. So a lot of times I will explain something to a guest in the audience, but my real the people I'm really trying to reach are the members of the club who have forgotten perhaps some aspect of Toastmasters that's very important.
And then you also want to assess the learning needs of the individual. Maybe they're there not because they want to be, but their boss says you need to be at Toastmasters for doing a presentation or leading a group. And this is something that needs to be clearly known. You can do this in an informal way, but one advantage of the new system in Toastmasters Pathways is we give a more formal needs assessment. And that's extremely beneficial. And you want to encourage the new members who have to join Pathways that they get their needs assessed as well. Anything else on those things?
Yeah, don't let them get away with saying, oh, I need to get over my fear of public speaking, because that's called the icebreaker. If they can do an icebreaker, they have gotten over their fear of public speaking. And give a couple more speeches, they leave the club. No, we are here to continually build our skills. So we want to identify where we can use the most help, areas that we want to focus on, and choose the lessons and pathways that are going to reinforce those areas of need.
Absolutely. And then we come to this one, speaking roles assigned. And Dennis, I think you have a fervent idea on how this should be done.
And it's not original. This actually comes from Toastmasters International. First meeting, a new member does a table topic without fail. Their second meeting, they do a functionary role, such as the timer or the yaw counter. At their third meeting, they do their icebreaker speech. We want to get them up and speaking as quickly as possible. In my Sunnyvale club, I just scheduled 3 speeches for one meeting. Generally, we have 2, but I want that new member to get that icebreaker done. So for that one meeting, we're going to skip table topics, which gives us enough time to have an icebreaker and an evaluation and get everybody on the pony.
Absolutely. Very good, because we don't want people just to sit on the bench and enjoy the show. We want them to be part of the show, because if they don't become part of the show, eventually they will simply fade away and become a no-show. And finally, members involved in club activities. Wait, what does this mean, Dennis Duncan?
Well, people help support what they help create. If you've got 2 or 3 people, and you know that there's always 2 or 3 people who try to do everything, and that's great. It takes some of the pressure off of the rest of the people. But the more you spread around the activities that keep the club going, first off, you're building more members so that they can become officers in the future, but also they feel more, they have more skin in the game, that they can be proud that things are running well because they were part of making them run well.
And Dennis, do you happen to know anybody who became an officer after shortly joining the club?
Are you talking about me? What?
Yes, what's your story of that?
Oh, I joined the club and we didn't have a vice president of education. And being young and naive, I said, oh, I don't know how to do that. I'll try it. Because I thought education was cool and stuff. I went to TLI and oh my God, I had no idea that the vice president of education does all the work for the club. So I jumped in and did all the work and actually took a club that had not been distinguished the previous year to president's distinguished that year, not because I did anything particularly special. All I did was do what the manual told me to do as the vice president of education.
And how many years ago was that when that happened?
That was 12 years ago.
And you've been a Toastmaster ever since. And this speaks again to getting members involved in all aspects of the club wherever possible. As Dennis said, if they're part of building this creation, this Toastmasters Club, and making it special, they will be invested in it and they will stick around. All right, so that's the second of the two categories that you do the Moments of Truth on. Now the third one is fellowship, variety, and communication. Guests are greeted warmly and enjoyable educational meetings. Wait a second, are we here to get educated or to enjoy ourselves? Dennis, how is that possible?
You know, Ralph Smedley said something very interesting that you said at the beginning of this presentation that I can't remember the exact quote, but perhaps you can remember the exact quote Ralph Smedley said.
People learn best in times of enjoyment, and that's what we're trying to do. So the educational meetings should have that degree of formality as implied by an agenda. They should be organized. They should also be enjoyable. And the common way of making a meeting enjoyable is to choose a theme. And then you connect everything to a theme. Maybe there's some decorations on the table or the wall, but most importantly is the energy that a theme brings to the meeting and that particular Toastmaster of the day does. So it's a little bit of flavor built on top of that formal structure that we have in every club, and that is the three major parts of an educational meeting, which are prepared speeches, table topics, and evaluation speeches, and then other aspects built around that. That's formality. That can be very dry, but if you add just a little bit of flavor, and mainly you do that through the theme, then people will have an enjoyable time as well.
Well, you know, I compare it to Little League baseball versus playing stickball in the street. You can go out and play with your friends, stickball in the street, you know, the fender of the car is first base and Jimmy's mom is second base and all of that. Or you can go over and join a formal organization, work on your batting skills, your fielding, etc. In both cases, you're having fun. But the organized Little League, you're actually building skills that you can then take and perhaps use on more advanced teams, or you can use them to become a professional baseball player. Stickball players practically never become professional baseball players. And people who just go and chat with people in coffee shops are not as likely to become TED Talk speakers as people who join a club like Toastmasters.
And improve. Once again, when we talk about fellowship, variety, and communication, we are not a friendship group. We are a group of people brought together to do things we cannot do by ourselves. And we hope that we're friendly, but we're not a group of friends just getting together. And if that happens outside of Toastmasters, great. But inside that meeting, you want to have a purpose, but make it enjoyable as well.
Yeah.
So another way to have fellowship, variety, and communication is regularly scheduled social events. And this builds on that fellowship, and it happens usually outside of meetings, but it doesn't have to. Dennis, what are some of the social events you've experienced in Toastmasters?
Well, this year we're sponsoring a tree at Christmas in the park. So we're getting together to create the decorations, then we'll go out and decorate the tree. Later we'll go out and visit the tree, and then we have to take down the tree. So that's a lot of social activity for $100.
Yeah, for one silly little tree. It's a great idea. Other clubs that I've experienced, they had post toasties. In one evening club, we did a 2-hour meeting, and then if you wanted to, we went to an establishment that served adult beverages, and we just sat around and talked, and usually for an hour, maximum 90 minutes. We just spent 2 hours with these people, and then you spend another hour with them. It was a great time, great way to build fellowship. Often you'll have a summer barbecue, and maybe you put a little joke-telling contest with the summer barbecue, or a holiday with potluck. And what I've seen at those types of things, you have a gift exchange, and everybody gets a gift, and they have to do a table topic on the gift. But my favorite is the Tales and Tellers holiday party, which includes a holiday tall tales contest. And it's a great way to bring people outside. We have free food and tell tall tales. It's a structured event, but it's also extremely social. So these are the types of things you can do, and you're limited by your imagination and often budget. Now, participation in area, district, and international events. How does this increase fellowship, variety, and communication, Dennis?
All of the fun in Toastmasters begins when you get outside the four walls of your club. Now, if you enjoy the Toastmasters thing with the 20 people there, imagine getting into a place where there are 300 Toastmasters all really digging it and getting into the spirit of the events. And international events, 1,000 people all in one place, all talking about Toastmasters at once. It is a way to really, I don't know, make you drink the Kool-Aid and be with other people who enjoy it as much as you do.
It's a fantastic way to grow and expand your network. And once again, you get an amazing appreciation for people in Toastmasters. And I remind everybody again and again, the people who come to your meeting are there to grow. And that in itself makes them special. Other people go and stay home and watch TV, take a long nap. But no, the people who come to Toastmasters say, I'm going to dedicate 2 hours or 1 hour a week to grow. And that makes them interesting and great people to be around and share fellowship with. Now there's inter-club events where you may have a kind of speak-off or contest between other clubs and your club, but it's a way to grow as well and expand your fellowship. And
Yeah, if you've got two clubs, each has 10 members, put them together, you got a whole club, at least for one meeting.
Yeah, and people can experience that energy and be more motivated to grow their club. And finally, a club newsletter or website, which is updated regularly. This is more difficult than it seems. And there's a role, an officer role within every club that would be in charge of that. And who is that?
That would be, for the newsletter and website, the VPPR.
Yeah. And this person doesn't have to do that all by him or herself. They get a committee or a couple of volunteers to help to make that happen. And this is a way, especially for guests who miss a meeting for a reason, maybe work or travel, they stay connected to the club, but is also a trail of evidence for people who might be checking out your club online to see all the good stuff that happens there. So that's, your idea of fellowship, variety, and communication. But let's go to the fourth area, which is program planning and meeting organization. Now, program and agenda publicized in advance. This may seem like a little bit of a pain, but nowadays it is not a pain. And Dennis, why is that? How can people do this in a very easy manner?
At this point, most of my clubs are either using Easy Speak or they're using Google Sheets so that the roles are up there well in advance. We have it now so that you can sign up for your speaking roles or what have you 6 months ahead of time. And they actually fill up months in advance at this point. But you fill in all of the roles and you encourage people to go in and look and sign in. And then usually 3 or 4 days before the meeting, put it into an agenda, send it out by email. Say, howdy everybody, here are the roles. Let me know if there's any changes you want to make. And that makes them aware that yes, you've planned out the meeting, that the meeting is actually going to happen, that they have a role and they need to prepare for it.
Yeah, no surprises. You walk in and you say, hey, Dennis, you're going to be speaking today. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. I thought I was the timer. You want to avoid those communication errors in planning and communicating what's going on. Free Toast is what a lot of my clubs use, and they have some great tools, especially with the pre-filled agenda. And maybe there's some open roles on that agenda a few days before it. You just click a button, and everybody in the club gets a copy of the agenda, and you can put a little note there, say, hey, we have some items open, please go to the website, fill it up, or let the VP know that you're available to fulfill that role. So use that as a tool so nobody comes into a meeting surprised and they're all prepared, and that's going to make that program much more effective. Now, members are prepared to carry out all those program assignments because they volunteered for it, they've been mentored, or they've gone to the Toastmasters website to learn about their role. They're prepared to make that happen, and that meeting is very smooth. Once again, not just for the benefits of the members or that person fulfilling that assignment, but the guest who walks in and seeing somebody time, they put up the red card first by accident, and they don't have their phone to time, and there's no stopwatch in the club. Those are the type of things that make guests wonder about the professionalism of your organization.
Very often I'll have a new member paired with an experienced member. I call them a shadow role. So you have a new timer, you have an experienced person there as the shadow timer. If for some reason the timer doesn't make it, you've already got a replacement ready to go. Otherwise, they sit there and they whisper encouragement and suggestions as they're working to be sure that the first time somebody does it, they're successful.
Absolutely. And another aspect of the meetings that we challenge every Toastmaster to do is when you get up and do a speaking project, it has to be an official Toastmasters project based on the manual or in the pathways. And Dennis, when you were Vice President of Education or President of your club and somebody said, "Oh, I'm speaker number 2 today, I didn't have time to prepare," what'd you do to them?
Well, okay, now, yeah, first off, yes, absolutely, everything's got to be manual or pathways. Don't let anybody come in there and say they're going to do a pocket speech, what have you. There's no excuse for it because, especially now that Pathways has opened up and you can do projects in advance. So if you're on level 2, but there's something in level 3 that fits the speech that you would like to give in the club, you can do that and get evaluated on it. You just can't get credit for it until you reach level 3. But as soon as you do, you get credit for that immediately and move along through. So there's no excuse, even in Pathways, not to have a manual project. But you asked what was specifically you were asking me, because that was off topic.
Yeah, that's right. When you were Vice President of Education and President of your club and somebody said, "Hey, I don't have a speech. I was speaker number 2. I'm not prepared. Maybe I can tell that story I used in my icebreaker." You say no, because that's not a manual project. Instead, you gave them something to do.
Well, what I would give them in the past was the Successful Club series, just like the presentation we're doing here. I'd send them off in the corner and say, go practice this to yourself, and I'm going to bring you up, and you can do Successful Club, Leadership Excellence, or Better Speaker series. That means that we fill the time with something useful. In the legacy program, they would actually get credit toward their Advanced Communicator Silver or their Advanced Leader Bronze Award. That's not the case any longer, so it makes it all the more important that people do manual projects or the Pathways projects. Yeah. We don't have that out anymore.
Yeah, and that's a bummer, but we do have 7 more months to make that happen. So
right.
Use that as a tool as necessary, but part of program planning and meeting organization, that meetings begin and end on time. And this is in respect for everybody, especially in the corporate club, at a morning breakfast club or a lunchtime club. They have other meetings to go to. And this is a great practice to have, that if your meeting is not finished and it's coming to the end, that you just delay anything that was going to happen to the next week, because we have to practice this in our professional lives as well. And we're going through a meeting, we scheduled it for an hour, looks like it's going to be 90 minutes. You end it after 60 minutes and you create a subsequent meeting, because the people in your meeting have other places to go. You need to respect that. So respect other people's time, and that's the way to be professional.
Hey, International Director Tevis Thompson joined Toastmasters because the first meeting he went to started and ended on time. These people respect my time. I'm going to come back.
Time is your most precious resource that you have, and it's not something you can get back. So we as an organization want to respect individuals' time. We also want to have creative table topics and activities. Table topics is a great way to encourage people to learn the art of impromptu speaking. And you do that not by asking tough questions, but by asking questions that will encourage the speaker to speak. What I found is as you get to know the members of your club and your table topics master, you know they grew up in Washington and the theme of the meeting is geography. You say, you know, what makes the city of Seattle great? Well, if they're from that area, they know it and they can speak for 1 to 2 minutes. So knowing your club is very good. And then if a guest comes in, you have a more generic question like what's your favorite food or what's your favorite color, just to get them speaking. And those creative table topics connect with the theme, but if they can connect with the speaker as well, it gives them something that they feel confident to speak about. And then you're really making those table topics effective.
You can be really creative with table topics too. I carry a set of dice that you can roll, and it's got a character, an object, and a goal, and you have to make up a story about those three things that come off the dice. I had somebody who had a computer program that would spin a wheel, and he would ask a question, and the wheel would say pro or con. So it spin around. You had to either speak in favor of this or against it based on the spin of the wheel. So lots of things that you can do with table topics to make them more engaging.
In addition to all that, you want to have positive and helpful evaluations. This module, Moments of Truth, is recommended twice a year for a club, but also the Evaluate to Motivate module in the Successful Club series is recommended as well. And that's because we need to be reminded on how to give an evaluation. Evaluation is not a critique, and it is not a whitewash. It has elements of that, but we want to make them positive and helpful. And this goes back to the fact that we respect the fear of public speaking. And somebody who gets up and speaks deserves not only our applause and our appreciation for them speaking in front of us, but we also want to reward them with an evaluation that is not only positive, but helpful. It needs to be both. Dennis?
Well, and the key here, some people think positive means always saying nice things. It really means always saying things as nicely as you can. But there are still some items I find where I really need to tell somebody the truth about what has just happened. In particular, when you have somebody who says that they are preparing for an outside engagement and they come in and they're not well prepared in particular areas, I will tell them, I think you've got a great topic and a great opportunity. You really need to focus on working on your vocal variety and making it smoother, because at this point you're really not ready, and it's not going to give you the benefits professionally that you think it will if you go out and you're at this level of preparation.
And the idea of giving them something that helps them in that situation, I would recommend that the evaluator speaks at the break or after the meeting. If it's something that's very challenging, you're encouraged to discuss that offline, not in front of the rest of the group. But right. It is necessary to say, and that is really required of the evaluator to make that determination. So that's how.
Well, I would say sometimes it's important to say things in front of the entire group, so that in particular, when someone has got an exercise from Pathways or a manual lesson, and it might be getting comfortable with visual aids. They get up and the computer's not working, and once they get it working, they are reading the slides instead of speaking to them. They're having trouble with the clicker device that goes between the slides. When you give them the evaluation, you can say, let's look at what the goal of this particular lesson was. do, for me, it didn't seem like this was that you were as comfortable with visual aids as you ought to be. You should consider doing this lesson again, rather than sit there and say, well, that was great, and I really enjoyed the slides, and skipping over the fact that they actually missed the point of the lesson.
Understood. And once again, it's the idea of giving feedback in a positive way, even when it's information that might be considered critical. You do it in a way that evaluates to motivate. And that's why this module should be done again and again in every club, because we need to be reminded on how to evaluate in such a way. Yeah, and this is a unique skill in Toastmasters. This is a leadership skill. As a leader, you have to evaluate the people you lead again and again. And you have to do it in a way that helps them grow, but also motivates them to stick around and be part of your organization. So take this opportunity to learn it within Toastmasters. You get to apply it outside of Toastmasters, but make sure your club does it in that positive way. So now we come to membership strength, and the club needs to have 20 or more members for that moment of truth when a guest walks into the club. Dennis, why is this important?
Because you can anticipate that 60% of your membership will attend any particular meeting. Some people come every time. Other people have got professional commitments that they have to meet, or perhaps their parents, and they have to do things with children on a regular basis. So while they're good members who come regularly, they don't come to every single meeting. That's why we anticipate with 20 members, you'll get 12 people who show up. If you have 12 members, you've got exactly enough people for all of the speaking roles, the evaluators, functionary roles, and a couple of people to do table topics. So 20 is the sweet spot.
Absolutely. And people judge organizations by numbers. If you have a meeting and they walk in and there's 6 people there, that's a negative impression. So you want to have that basic 20 member strength of your club, because you'll have healthy meetings and enough people, whether it's 12, 14, even 10 is still a solid number. But under that, the meetings get a little sparse, and it's a negative moment of truth. Members are retained. That speaks a lot to membership retention, speaks a lot to the quality of the club. And on average, clubs lose 40% of their members every year. You want to up that number and make sure the members are getting what they need out of Toastmasters. Because when you ask them why they left, what do they do to you, Dennis?
Well, they always say, I don't have time.
Yes, they lie. They lie because they're trying to be nice to you. But the truth is, they would not quit if they had their needs met and they were continuing to grow. And, if somebody obviously moves or has to change jobs, you understand why they're not sticking around. But most people just fade away because their needs are not being met, and all the moments of truth are not strong enough to keep them here.
That's where mentors and buddies come in, is because if you recognize that somebody has missed 2 meetings in a row, someone should contact that person and just let them know, hey, we missed you at the meeting. We had a lot of fun. When are we going to see you again? What can we do to help?
Yep, absolutely. Now, membership strength is also benefited by promotion in club's organization or community. If you're a corporate club, make sure that everybody in that corporation knows about your club being around. In AT&T, we had a sign up in the cafeteria that was put up there before I joined the club. And that had been up there for 7 years. And somebody came to our club and said, hey, I saw your new sign in the cafeteria and I want to join your club. Well, that person had walked by that sign for over 7 years, and they finally saw it. And that bit of promotion, as aged as it was, worked for us in our club, and we got a great new member because they thought it was a brand new sign. So you never know what kind of promotion and publicity is going to work or hit people at the right time. And you want to constantly put that information out there.
Now, the counter to that, I have a shared workspace. So my company rents a small space for three of us to work, but we're part of a larger office. So on the community bulletin board, I have a flyer up for the Toastmasters club that I attend Fridays at noon down the street. But I change that flyer about once a month to something that says the same thing, but it's got the different look. Sometimes it emphasizes leadership. Sometimes it emphasizes the communication skills. But just a different picture so that people may look at it this time and then realize, oh, yeah, I've been meaning to go to Toastmasters. So we've gotten 2 members from that in the last 6 months just by hanging that sign in the community area.
Yes, nice. So keeping that publicity up and making sure that your programs are varied and exciting. And sometimes the excitement comes simply from the energy of the group, choosing to be energetic. And what's the major way in which we communicate energy in Toastmasters?
Well, their applause, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, it was a trick question for you. And yes, definitely. Make sure if you're the Toastmaster or the president that you set the tone by making sure people applaud the speakers and people who interact with the club.
You know, Barbara that I mentioned, she starts every meeting, the Sergeant at Arms. Welcome to Sunnyvale Speakeasy, club number 7975. And we all say 7975 together. Not only is that a great way to sort of cheer for the club, when you go to these events where you're supposed to know your club number, we all know it. And we're probably the only club in Toastmasters who knows their club number.
And it's a fun way to do that. So yes, adding that energy and keeping the excitement level up is very important. So Toastmasters sponsoring new members are recognized. Now, people talk about putting up flyers, sending emails, websites. The still number one way we get Toastmasters to grow is through personal invitation. I have this great club, come on down. And that's why the Vice President of Membership isn't in charge of getting everybody to become a member. They're in charge of encouraging others to bring in guests, and those guests in time can become members. So it's important that you have certain contests or just recognition. Toastmasters International will help you. And on the membership form, there's a line for who sponsored this brand new member. And you want to track that and make that part of your recognition.
That's also important because Toastmasters International keeps track of how many members you sponsor, and you can always go look it up on the website.
Nice. Cool. And then regular membership building programs. And so you have an open house here or there, or you do something special to reach out to the broader society, broader community. And you just want to keep that going because you may be a high member club one June and the subsequent June you're down to 8 people. It just happens and it's unfortunate. I've been in Toastmasters since 1997. I've seen high powered clubs all of a sudden shrink to nothing, and then a few months later they've done some membership building programs, they're growing again, they regain momentum. One advantage of new members is new energy. So you have some great regular members, but you bring in new members, and there's new energy and excitement as well brought in by those people. So make sure that's part of your plan. All right. And the last area of the moment of truth is achievement recognition. So award applications are immediately submitted to world headquarters. And when you do that, often you get an official note from Toastmasters. And you can also get that note sent to your supervisor at work. So it's a great way of just saying, hey, I'm a person of growth. Hey, boss, look at me. Outside of work, I'm doing stuff as well.
And one thing that's challenging in Pathways is that when someone earns an educational award, when they complete a level, you have to report it in the Pathways base camp, and you have to report it in the Club Central on the Toastmasters website. So there are 2 places that you have to report these things, and if you report it in one place and not the other, then either the club member can't move forward in pathways, or and they get the award, or they move forward in pathways and they don't get the award. And so it's got to be sure you've done it in both places as quickly as possible, because people want to get those awards the same day, the same night, the same week that they earn them, and they should.
It's a part of that recognition and feedback, which we do, and it makes us special, and it makes those people feel valued. So make sure you take care of that as a club officer, especially the VPE. Now, a progress chart is displayed and maintained, who's done what in the club, and people can go up and say, oh, hey, I'm only 4 projects away from this, or I just got one more thing to do to get this award. And by doing that, you can encourage people, and they can encourage themselves.
It helps also. Other people are more willing to let people have speaking slots, etc., if they know that that's going to earn the club a DCP point.
Yeah, definitely. And when they do that, you recognize them with a ceremony. Each major milestone is given a ceremony. I like to give Mylar balloons, at the very least, a round of applause, preferably a standing ovation. And you think, oh, hey, they just got this little achievement. No, it's another step of growth. It's not just about the award or the bling, but it's, recognizing that that person has chosen to continue to grow as a communicator and leader. And we celebrate every little step along that pathway.
Every time someone completes a Pathways level in my San Jose club, we have a little ceremony. We bring them up and we give them the certificate. Then we ask, what did you learn in this level of Pathways? They tell us what they learned, and then they run around the table and everybody gives them a high five in the club. Just a little ritual, a silly thing, but as you say, you really feel proud when you get everybody in the club giving you that high five.
Absolutely. Now, club, district, and international leaders are recognized. Remember that Toastmasters is all about the Toastmasters member, and a member of Toastmasters can spend most of their Toastmaster time within the club. And that's where you learn the most and grow the most. But to support the club and the individual member, we have all these other aspects of the organization that do that support work. And we recognize those people when they go in. And Dennis, I believe you're past something or other that we have to refer to every single time we meet. What is that?
Always have to call me a past district governor.
And even though it was like, 50 years ago that you were a past district governor.
I was 7 when I did that.
There we go. We continue that recognition. And anybody who's a past district director, district governor, we recognize that along the way. And we say, you know what? Hey, this person served as an international director, a district governor, district director. And we say, hey, that's one way to thank them for their service to our organization, which supports the club and in turn supports the member. And then club and member achievements are publicized. Maybe the district website, maybe the newsletter. Get that information out there. Once again, recognizing that people are taking these steps to grow. And in doing so, they become better members of our club and Toastmasters International. And when somebody meets them and it's a moment of truth, when they say, what is Toastmasters all about? They see it in how that person speaks and leads. And finally, the Distinguished Club Program is used for planning and recognition. The club has its goals, and the DCP is a way to take the mission statement of the club and turn it into 10 objective areas that you're trying to meet. You meet those 10 objectives, you're doing well. There's more to do, but this is a great way just to track the basics of what you need to be a healthy and helpful Toastmasters club. What do you think of the DCP, Dennis?
Yeah, that's key, because if you are a President's Distinguished Club, you are successful in doing all of the basic things that a club needs to be successful. I object to the whole idea that President's Distinguished. It's not this lofty thing. it should be the natural way every club is. My clubs, as I say, I joined them because they're well run. So I'm not taking any credit for this. But my clubs are so well run that it's November. One of them is already select distinguished. The other is distinguished, and I know it's going to be president's distinguished by the end of the year when a couple of members earn their DTMs. So it's if you are a president's distinguished club, that just means everything is running smoothly. That's what you want.
And you as a club officer use that as a guideline to get started, but there's more to it than just making that happen. But just know that that's a great way to start and do your planning based on the DCP.
Right.
So in summary, we ask, how well does the club perform on each standard of these 6 moments of truth? The first impressions, the membership orientation, fellowship, variety, and communication, program planning and meeting organization, membership strength, and achievement recognition. In this particular module, Moment of Truth, what you do next is you break up into small groups within the club, maybe 2 or 3 members, and you have each group focus on one of these 6 areas. If you don't have enough people, maybe you're very small, you do it as a committee of the whole, and you use the handout, which comes for free with this module, and that goes through all these areas and asks you pointed questions on how you're doing on all these areas of moments of truth. And what you want to do as a club every 6 months is take that inventory of how you're doing. Use that handout to make this an area where you can recognize, hey, we're missing here. We do well in 5 of the 6 areas of the moments of truth, but that first bullet, first impressions, we're too busy. Our sergeant at arms is always late. We don't greet members. We're setting up the room, getting everything ready for the meeting and starting, and you're missing that first step. And you recognize that, you take action to take care of that first impression and make sure that moment of truth is part of your comprehensive way of impressing guests as well as your continuing members. Dennis?
Well, as we have been talking through these slides, we're giving a lot of background information that people should be aware of. But the purpose of this presentation tonight is to encourage people to do the Moments of Truth presentation. The one thing I would really caution people about is if you are leading the Moments of Truth, you should not be doing all the talking. You're the person who should be encouraging everyone else in the club to speak, and to speak candidly, honestly about what's going well, and even more importantly, what could be even better. I visited an advanced club when I was a district governor, a club that really should have known better, given that their mission had to do with being great leaders. I visited the club when they decided to do Moments of Truth. Only 3 members showed up. There were 2 guests, and then the district governor and the lieutenant governor of education and training were the only people in the meeting. And the person who was leading it was going through these slides and saying, yeah, first impressions. I think we do all these things well. Click. Membership orientation. Yeah, I think we do all these things well. Click. And he was just going through the presentation that way, saying that they did everything well. Utter waste of time, and certainly didn't get to the heart of this. If you do Moments of Truth well, you're going to have a heart-to-heart about things that are making people want to quit your club. And this is the go ahead.
Yeah, or guests to run away screaming and laughing about what a bunch of geeks, silly geeks those Toastmasters are. And one of the important things and why we challenge every club to do this and to grow and to be a fantastic organization is because if one guest comes to your funky dunky club and it leaves a bad impression in all these areas of Moments of Truth, that person is not only not going to come back to your club, they're not going to go to other clubs, or they're not going to speak kindly about Toastmasters as an organization. So if your club messes up, you're creating a negative moment of truth for the rest of the organization. And this is part of our challenge in asking you as a club to continue to grow and evaluate how you're doing.
And let's flip that and be positive. If someone comes to the club as a guest, has a great experience, but decides not to join at that time, they're going to be sitting in the lunchroom. Somebody says, I was thinking of joining Toastmasters. What they're going to say is, hey, I tried it. It wasn't for me, but you would probably really enjoy it.
Yes.
That's what we want people to say. We want that word of mouth.
Yes, we want our brand to have a positive impression on everybody, so it's shared in a positive way. And I think Dennis pointed out that when you do this in your club, it's a commitment. You don't have a regular meeting and throw in the moments of truth. No, your entire meeting is focused on this self-evaluation of your organization based on these 6 categories. It's a commitment, and if guests show up, it's a little bit awkward, but you want to let people know what's coming many weeks in advance of when you do this. But you should do this. It's an investment in having a great organization, which in turn fulfills the mission, which makes you a better leader and a better communicator and helps you grow. Dennis?
Yeah, what you said.
With that, thank you guys for attending our Moments of Truth session. We hope you have much success in your club, which in turn gives you an opportunity to grow. So it's an investment of your time that makes you a better leader and communicator, and that makes all the difference, not only within Toastmasters, but outside of Toastmasters as well. Hope you have great Moments of Truth experience.
Yeah. Definitely do the Moments of Truth in your club. Every one of you have a Moments of Truth session. If you have any questions about this or you'd like assistance with it, please contact me, dennis.s.dawson@gmail.com, and we'll help you out.
You got it. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you, Dennis. Always a pleasure, and hope you have a wonderful evening.
Okay. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.